Have you ever looked at a t-shirt and said, I really want to do that? Just not with heat transfer vinyl. Or maybe you wouldn't mind doing it with heat transfer vinyl if you could hire tiny fairies to come and weed out all of the little details. Boy, do I have news for you. You can now screen print without spending days building the screens. And all you need is an xTool S1 of the 20-watt variety or any of the other xTool lasers on the market. xTool has figured out a way to make screen printing stupid easy with their suite of lasers. The only thing that I had to do to make sure that I could use this frame was to have an adapter installed very quickly with 2 screws. Then I just used their software for expert placement. Of course, you might be wondering, where is the screen? Ta-da! Yeah, so this is basically the screen. So instead of spending 2, 3, however many days creating one off of a very fine stainless steel screen, you can now buy them, and they're relatively cheap. They're basically covered with a very laser-safe substrate that gets lasered away and reveals the silk screen portion. Ah, just like the silk screens of old. You did this, you install it into this, you laser it, and you're done! Sounds easy, right? Well, let's hop into it. First, I needed to prep my machine for using the screen printer frame. I removed the honeycomb tray, and then I removed the 2 screws on the left of the machine. This is important to point out because the instructions said to do this on the right side, but it's actually the left if you're facing the opening like me. I didn't even realize it was flipped until I opened the xTool software. The kit came with 2 bar-like jigs to keep the frames steady while they're in the machine. The smaller one is for the S1, so that's what I'm installing here. All I had to do was screw it in using the same screws I just removed. Installing the screen into the frame was actually really easy. There are a lot of tutorials in the xTool support site and on YouTube, so I didn't think it was useful to go in depth here. Basically, you flip the frame upside down and push the 4 edges of the screen into the sides, then secure and tighten with the matching rods. Apart from keeping my dirty little hands off the center of the screen, installation was really simple, and there wasn't a lot of guesswork involved in placement like there is with machine embroidery hoops. I will say that I love how xTool has already put out documentation and demonstration videos telling consumers how to reuse the screens. This is so they don't go to waste and also don't get stuck with buying a million refills. That was my #1 concern, seeing as how the screens fit is very proprietary to the brand. Of course, if you don't want to go through the process of cleaning and refurbishing the screens for reuse, you can always buy more from xTool. When not on sale, they run roughly $10 per screen, which is more than going to be made up by the products you sell from it. When you've secured the screen, flip it over and gently remove the cardboard plate. This will expose the area that will be engraved by the laser. Oh, and tap that sucker like a drum. It should make a clear thump if you've installed it correctly. It just doesn't sound right until the cardboard has been removed. I probably could have used Lightburn for this, but the placement guides and the default settings being readily available in the xTool Creative Space software was too good to pass up. All I had to do was drop down from laser flat and select screen print to switch modes. Then I just pulled in the image I wanted to screen print, increased its size, then flipped it horizontally before rotating and positioning it. It's important to know that you do need to horizontally flip this. Otherwise, it's not going to print correctly and you'll have a very backwards looking design, quite literally. One thing to note is that the far right edge is where the neck hole for the shirt will be. So I need to make sure the design isn't upside down. As someone who is very spatially challenged, I had to go through this in my head a few times to nail it down. My settings were exactly what the xTool support site suggested for the S1 20-watt unit. Speed was 162 millimeters per second, power at 55%, and lines per centimeter was 200. From there, I just slid the frame into the fixing piece and positioned my laser head to the upper right of the screen. The engraving process was a lot slower than I was used to, but I also don't have access to the updates to the xTool software that have improved upon the pathfinding. As far as the smell goes, I have the air purification unit and a separate air purifier in my office, so for me, it was tolerable. If you ask my husband, though, he was most definitely dying, like a head cold, only less severe. Clearly. 1 hour later. It turned out great. I didn't need to wash any of the residue off with water. You can see how it cut right through the screen to the other side and didn't burn away the screen in the process. That's a slight risk, which is why I trusted the xTool recommended settings for my machine. So that looked great holding it up over there, you know, in front of my mobile camera and whatever. But what if we took a look here with all the light in the background? Whoa, look at that! You can almost see through me. If I bring it closer, you can actually see quite a bit of that detail getting through there. So it's gone right through that substrate that they use for the top layer and basically revealed the silk screen. One of the big reasons why I never got into screen printing is not just the amount of materials that were required to do so, but the time. I don't know about you guys, but I got a touch of the ADHD neuro spicy going on, and anything that requires more than a few hours to do is not something I'm going to stick with. But this was fast. All right, let me get the actual screen printer tool up here so we can make the shirt. Oh, see, it's not actually all that heavy. It's just a little awkward. But I actually think this is a quite reasonable size for what it is. In fact, I'll be able to easily store this on the bottom tray over there of that rickety table that I have, which I absolutely need to replace. Since I'm going to be working with something that's loose like fabric, such as the t-shirt I'm going to be doing, I probably need to put this nice little cutting mat on there. Except you're not going to be cutting on this. This is basically sticky on both sides so that the fabric doesn't go shifting and flying all over the place when you're squeegeeing that ink down. Without this, you're likely to get smudges, and that's on you, boo. I'm gonna opt to use the Imperial unit side, only because I don't need the fine granularity of the back here that has centimeters. So in order to put it down correctly, I'm gonna go ahead and peel off that protective covering, which is protecting it from cat hair. My room has a ton of cat hair. Fun! Then I'm gonna take this, and I wanna have it this way because typically I'll do t-shirts and I'll be sliding them on this way, whereas this is going to be the back part of the frame. And I wanna be able to measure things correctly. So set that right on top, and it should settle down right onto the wood frame here without much fuss. So you won't have to kind of like play guesswork. I will say, like, for the first time setting it up, be careful. Don't like rub your hands on the side because this is actually really rough wood. It doesn't feel sanded at all, and I could totally see myself scratching, you know, all over it. Then I can just peel that off. Oh, so satisfactory, yeah. Now, before I do my t-shirt, and since this is quite literally the first one that I've done, I like my natural reactions in these kinds of videos, we're gonna use the provided canvas tote. If you don't have something like this, that's fine. You can just use paper to test it out, just to make sure everything is working and that it cut through very accurately when doing the engraving. I don't need to do anything extra special like sliding this over because I only want to basically do one side of it like I would with the t-shirt. I basically slide it this way. So for this, I'm actually just gonna set it down. I just want to get any of the wrinkles out of there and smooth out the fabric, because otherwise it's just going to be very lumpy and bumpy when I turn around and go to do the squeegeeing. Ta-da! Now we just need to install the frame. Make sure these little doodads are flipped out and that the knob on the right is locked. Then we're going to take our frame and just slide it right in there. And then I can take these guys and then, learn that I quite possibly need to start doing more weightlifting. It's fine, it's cool. So now I'm gonna turn the knob counterclockwise so I can then press this down. Now, you might be thinking this would be easier from a different position. It absolutely would be, except squeegeeing is better from where I'm at right now. So we're gonna, basically, you're gonna put all your weight into it, oh my gosh, and then tighten the knob on the backside there just to get everything in here. And it should be relatively flush to your project. Now they gave me all this really good smelling paint and a spatula. This is so exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this while I espouse to you my love of doing these videos absolutely blind, meaning I don't like to prep too much or do too many tests ahead of time unless it's for something specific, like of course the power of a laser, etc., etc. If it's an accessory like this that is basically being marketed and made for the sole purpose of making it easier for people to get into a hobby, I kind of want to test it without having done it before and record the process, which means lots of outtakes. Or me forgetting that I'm wearing a Tiger King t-shirt I got for $10 off of Amazon. You're welcome. Anywho, once I get that all stirred up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay down a bit of the ink and squeegee it. So I've not seen people overdo it. So you just put a little bit of the paint down and you can actually recover this paint / ink afterward. So I think it's all right. And since I haven't done this before, I'm just gonna kind of be like overly generous with it, and then I can take it up with my squeegee and basically put it right back into the bottle when I'm done. So I'm gonna move that, and then I'm gonna grab the squeegee. This came with it, so I didn't have to like worry about it. There's also a nice little storage. Oop. Yeah, there's a magnet. It's a magnet underneath, so it's a magnet. Hi. Anyway, now I have everything locked, ready to go. So I'm gonna grab it and squeegee. So I'm just gonna push down and bear my weight into it and pull it along to get that ink in there. Okay, clearly I needed more ink. Clearly I needed a little more. Okay, so let's do that. So I can take this actually. So this is how you, their tutorial video shows you how you can basically take up the ink / paint and put it back into the bottle. You basically scrape it off of there. And you can see why I actually put a paper towel down. So I am not a smart woman, Jenny, but I know what screen printing is. I probably press a little too aggressively, but that's all right. And if you're wondering why I'm not putting it way up here, I don't know if I should. I think it actually will cause problems if you don't squeegee it all the way across. So I'm gonna try that again, but I'm not gonna press too much harder this time. I'm just gonna kind of let that ink get dragged all the way up. And you can go over it multiple times and squeak. And in fact, they recommend that you do that when it comes to fabric items. If you're doing this with paper, you don't need to worry. Okay. There. So now I'm going to take the spatula, my new best friend, and plop that. You can see it's like, well, Kittens is real good at wasting all that nice paint. But I'm learning, okay? It's a process. I'm going to put that there. Huzzah. And then I probably should have distributed that a little better, huh? So now I love these. I was never good at oil painting, for crying out loud. Huzzah. Again. I say that a lot. That's what you get when I'm unfiltered. That and toothbrushes. All right. Awkward. Okay, now I'm just gonna drag the ink up again and hopefully capture these sections at the top. And scrape that up. All right, I think I did it. I don't know, and I'm super nervous. Oh gosh, let's scrape more. It's a very awkward sound. I think I need to scrape it up so I can get all the ink out of there and then put it down at the bottom, because I'm going to do this with the t-shirt next. Just like that. Of course, when I lift this, it's going to be like, what? Now, this is all water-based paint, by the way, so it'll just wash right off all of this. Okay, so now I'm going to put some light pressure on this end just to counter it, because this will go boink, and there's even a warning right here that will let you know it will smack you in the face. So I'm going to lightly loosen the pressure and let that lift up. Oh God, I'm so nervous. Oh my Lord, it looks so cool. Oh my God, that looks so cool. I had to switch cameras. So I don't want to tilt this up, but you can pull this up and tilt it so, you know, you can get stuff out easier. However, if I do that, it's going to cause all that paint that I dribbled down to just go wee. We don't want to do that. So instead, I'm just going to gently lift and pull this off, and it needs to dry. I don't know how long it takes for it to cure. Anyway, it's not going to go dripping everywhere, but baby's first screen print. I love it. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Let's screen print everything. Now I'm going to do it from this view because I personally don't want to have to do it top down and then you get to watch me like have an absolute coronary attack trying to do it. So I'm just going to move all this stuff out of the way so I don't do anything dumb like let the sleeves flop into the ink. Now this part I do know, like I'm one of those monkey see, monkey do annoying people that I can watch a video or two and I pretty much get the hang of whatever it is that you're doing. It's just I normally never had the time, the money, or the space to put something like this. Oh, and again, the whole ADHD thing where I have no patience for a hobby that takes more than 2 hours. Fun! Okay, gonna go ahead and slide that on there. Again, making sure I don't like touch any of this, and like I can tilt it a little bit. If I start seeing that black sludge thing go south, I'm like just gonna have a little bit of a heart attack. So lay this in here, and again, no wrinkles or anything like that. And I was watching another video by a YouTuber on how they placed things and how they preferred to place their t-shirts and their designs. So the design is already placed about 2 inches below where the neckline would be, or rather 2 inches below this particular the edge of the frame. So I like to put my design starting roughly 3 fingers below a crew neck. V-necks are a little different, you know, because they dip a little more, but with the crew neck, 3 fingers is a pretty good guideline. Unless you have super small fingers, in which case that looks dumb. Right! So I'm just going to make sure that things are gonna be lined up in a way that doesn't make it so this design is up in my sagging, aging, middle-aged neck. Great. I'm so positive. Okay. I think that actually is going to be pretty darn good. So for reference, the crew neck, the top of the binding is right on the edge for me. And the design is 2 inches below the far right edge in XCS. So now I'm going to go ahead and lower this down. Whoop, hello, hi. So it's a little embarrassing, but I actually am using my chest for good. Now I'm going to lock this in place so it doesn't go flying up and smacking me. Oh yeah. And again, just a gentle stir. So gentle. And I'm going to flop that down there like cooking, only worse. Get that in. I think it's all right if it's just like going over. The whole point is to squeegee the crap out of it. Okay. I'll take that, move that off to the side. Get the ink off my finger. And go. Okay. I made sure I did it orientation correct. So I have that problem when I do embroidery sometimes. I'll look at it after I'm done. I'm like, that's so awesome looking. Oh, whoops. I put it in upside down. Welcome to my world. Okay, I'm just gonna squeegee all of that up because it didn't get all the way up here. Like I didn't drag it all the way up, so that's fine. Just gonna do another paint racklet here. If you understand that reference, bless you. Like I wonder if I could actually like let the ink, like drop some of the ink up here. But I'm just gonna keep using this ink and try not to add more. And like I said, like even their tutorials are like, you should probably go over this a couple of times. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do whatever the xTool tutorials say and get it basically saturated, just not so much that it's like, you know, leaking through and making an absolute hot mess of things. Again, And now I'm just gonna scrape this up. Okay. Hoi. Let's see, I think I'm actually starting to scrape some of the area up that wasn't supposed to be inked by going over this one too many times. So we'll see. I don't know if that's paint or if I've screwed up the mold. Gentle pressure, counterclockwise, and release. Whoa. Okay, now that I don't have any paint on there, I'm gonna go ahead and tilt that up. Okay, the important part. Let's go ahead and take this off. And I think I'm in love. Like, this is pretty darn cool. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to make a bunch of these for friends who are dungeon masters, because this is flippin' awesome. That's just awesome. Thank you so much for paying attention to my little corner of the internet. If you have any questions about the xTool S1 or the screen printer adapter, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. You can also check out the description under the video for information on where you can buy the accessory kit or a laser. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go give this to my husband, who definitely deserves it, because he is a shady dungeon master.